Hey there, Erie readers. Thanks for joining me again for another installment of this virtual video, Erie at Large. We're joined today by Congressman Tim Ryan, who represents the 13th Congressional District in Ohio. For those of you that don't know where that's at, it's situated right along the Pennsylvania border, rolling through Youngstown and over toward Akron. Congressman, it's just over a year since you joined us here in Erie for the Democratic dinner last spring, as you were getting ready to kick off your presidential run for the Democratic nomination, and we might as well just start there. You were a great speaker, an impassioned speaker, as always. Anybody who's seen your viral videos on Twitter or Facebook these days just understands the fire in your belly for working people and trying to keep America heading in the right direction. Tell me a little bit about that experience. What trying to make a national run out of Ohio 13 felt like, looked like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it was. Thanks for having me, and I had a ball there. We had a couple of events, and then we went to the dinner, and it was just an amazing crowd and a lot of great energy and a lot of pictures after. It was a lot of fun, so I appreciate it. Look forward to coming back, hopefully at some point when we all can gather again. But it was a great experience. I mean, look, I was under no illusion that I was gonna, just turn up and be the nominee, and everybody was gonna drop everything that they were doing. I knew I had to go out there and earn it, and there was a number of challenges, obviously, with a huge field, and then a debate setup that really didn't allow for me to really be in the conversation much. And then after two debates, not even be in the debates anymore. It was much different than the Republican debates, where they let everybody kind of do their thing all the way throughout and then narrowed it at the end. Ours, we were, narrowing it by August. And so I didn't really get a chance to introduce myself. We did this speech Friday on the House floor. It's had almost 4 million views on social media. And a couple of the people were like, "This guy should have ran for president." And I was like, "Dirty dog." I mean, and so, but it was a sign of, just not being able to get out there. But you know what, I'll just leave with this and for you and the viewers is what I really took away is that whether I was in Erie, Pennsylvania, Youngstown, Ohio, rural Iowa, inner city Columbia, South Carolina, or a working class old mill town in New Hampshire, the challenges are the same. You're white, black, brown. I mean, it's just, Midwest, Ohio, South. These challenges are all the same. And we just got to get the people united around an agenda that helps everybody. I mean, that's what I took away from it.
Well, let's talk about that agenda. You were on the House floor. We see you're working from home most of the time, but you yes. are going to Washington for votes, and you were on the floor last Friday to really say, hey guys, what are we doing here? If we can't get this done for the American people, what else are we here for? Talk to me a little bit about the tone in Washington when you get back there. What is the disconnect? What are the Republicans in Washington missing about this crisis and this opportunity to meet and support the American people?
Well, I thought we were going in the right direction. I think here in Ohio, we're going in the right direction. We have a Republican governor that I've supported all along the way here. No cheap shots, no politics. I thought DC, we did a couple of nice bills. Look, we're trying to solve massive problems. It's very complicated. But then, this week, the president wants everything opened up because he wants the economy to come back so he doesn't have to deal with this for his reelection. That's great. We all do. We all want the economy to come back. And so we have this package that really recognizes how deep the economic problems are. 36 million people have filed, bankruptcy or for unemployment. 4 million people in April couldn't pay their mortgage. 10% of people couldn't pay their rent. The big stunning statistic is 40% of people who have a family member that makes less than $40,000 a year lost their job last month. This is going to be going on for a while. And then I was sitting there listening to the debate, and everyone's talking about these peripheral issues, that have nothing to do. They're just all political issues. And I just got hot, and I'm half Italian and half Irish. So I could only stand there for so long and take it. And I got up and I ripped it. But so you got to come together. This is about police, fire, teachers, nurses, small business people, right? Frontline healthcare workers, frontline food safety workers, cashiers, giving them a little bit of hazard pay, And so the whole point was we spent $2.3 trillion on a tax cut in which 83% of it went to the top 1% a few years ago. Now you turn around and you try to help working class people who are struggling, and all of a sudden all the Republicans are saying we don't have any money left. Like, wait a minute, it's how convenient that anytime the workers need some help, we don't have any money left.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the differences between the CARES Act and the HEROES Act, and what some of these kind of stark differences actually are. I mean, there's been some critique of the CARES Act that not enough kind of mom and pop small businesses were getting help out of that. Certainly, folks who were happy with their, well, happy is relative, I guess, but grateful for their stimulus payment, grateful for expanded unemployment, but at the same time, they're worried about what happens next. They're worried about what happens at the end of May when all these benefits run out.
Yeah, so the CARES Act, people call it a stimulus package. This is not stimulating anything. These are stabilization packages just to stabilize. And so the CARES Act helped the small business people with this PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, to help them get their workers back so they can get their business back up and running. They were supposed to spend that money in 8 weeks, right, by June 30th. We extended that in this new act 20 to 24 weeks. We don't want people keeping their workers if they can't open for another month or two. Save that money when you can open, then the money will be there and we'll extend the date for you. Unemployment insurance continued the extension to the end of the year, extended student loan payments until next September. We did $200 billion in hazard pay for all of these frontline workers where they can get another $13 an hour going retroactive back to January. Just trying to help the cashier at Aldi's. We're not bailing out Wall Street. We're trying to help a cashier at Aldi's or Mark's or Giant Eagle or wherever. And I just don't think, that's what's frustrating about it is we're not asking too much. $1 trillion for state and local governments so that they can make sure that the, Department of Corrections is funded, that the State Highway Patrol is funded, that public health is funded, that locals aren't laying off, police and fire, that the departments of education aren't getting cuts. And then I use that stat about the 40% of people who make $40,000 a year or less, they lose their job. They're also most in need of health care. So we increased Medicaid payments in the state and local piece, increase of 14%. So that person who worked and made $35,000 a year, lost their job, we're going to make sure that they have unemployment and we're going to make sure they have health care. Like, what are we talking about here? And what kind of country are we if we can't do that? And we could do that and try to get the economy up and running. And that's basically what we tried to do in the last couple of bills.
So what's it going to take to get the Senate moving, get the Senate to look at this bill and help carry on the support and stabilization for working Americans?
I don't know. I think, they're going to wait and see. And I hope it's not going to take even more severe economic consequences here, or another spike in the coronavirus, and it starts overwhelming the hospitals and everybody starts panicking again. I hope that's not what it takes, because the state and local piece is something that needs to get done now. And like I said, look, this is our bill we passed out of the House. It goes to the Senate. Take out what you don't want, send it back. Like, this is the legislative process. Quit the belly aching, and this is what Mitch McConnell started a bill 3 weeks ago. We didn't like everything that we wanted to get state and local in there. We couldn't get it in there, and we complained that we couldn't get in there. And then what did we do? We voted for it and moved it on because it was going to help half the people that needed help. Like, quit whining. They sound like a bunch of, just whining little kids.
When you're out, you're in the midst of a reelection campaign in Eastern Ohio, and many of your constituents are a lot like some folks here in Western Pennsylvania. I mean,
Yeah,
we're neighbors, cut from the
yeah.
same cloth in many
We
ways,
have
and
we have different football teams, but other than that, we got a lot in common.
I think there's a fair number of Browns fans here in Erie, PA that would
All
ride
right,
right along with
that's
you there. But
music to my ears.
but you're out there and you're talking to constituents, many of whom voted for this president, many of whom are supporting Republican agendas to their own detriment. What's the conversation? How are you trying to break through to those folks and convince them that the support that they need isn't necessarily going to be there if they continue to vote in the way that they have been?
Well, the one thing that the coronavirus has done is it's really opened people up to like who's helping me. And they know that it's Mitch McConnell and President Trump that are putting the kibosh on the state and local help, for example, in some of the hazard pay, some of these other things that we're trying to do. But again, all politics is local. And so in our area, the president made a lot of promises in 2016. He really ran as an independent. He was going to raise taxes on the rich. He was going to expand healthcare. He was going to do a $1.5 to $2 trillion infrastructure bill and rebuild the country. He went back on all of those. And he promised us locally he was going to save our General Motors plant. So he didn't lift a finger. We've sent letters. The head of the union sent 2 letters, didn't even get crickets, didn't get any response. Now we got positioned an electric vehicle truck company and a battery company there. He's done nothing. In fact, he's got rid of the tax credits for electric vehicles for consumers, was not in his budget. A low interest loan program for Teslas and this Lordstown Motors that's coming in, completely got rid of that program. I had to get the money back in to start it up. So now it's going to be, for me, this guy didn't deliver. He's no different than all these other politicians over the last 30 or 40 years that made all these promises and never delivered. And I'm gonna hammer him on that. My opponent is cozying up to Trump, and she's gonna have to defend it. And I'm gonna have an enjoyable time the next few months making that argument.
You're also a supporter of Vice President Biden and his campaign for the presidency. You were on board early. I recall seeing news clips of you making phone calls in Iowa for Vice President Biden. A lot of folks still need to be sold on why the vice president is the right choice to be the next president. When you run into that question, when you run into those folks, what are you saying?
Well, I mean, we've got 36 million people filed for unemployment. We've got a disjointed approach to trying to deal with a global pandemic. We've got a blamer in chief, somebody he's not a good leader. I mean, period. And I think if you go back and you look at Joe Biden, obviously he's from Scranton, PA, and he gets us, which is most important to me about who's going to be in the White House. Do they understand people like us, where we come from, what our needs are? He does. But he also has a pretty big view of the future about what the economy can be like. We have a new 3D printing additive manufacturing center here in Youngstown that we're really proud of. New technology. A lot of people don't know a whole lot about it, but it's going to create 3 to 5 million new jobs in the next 10 years. The number one center is here in Youngstown, Ohio, and it's here because of the Obama-Biden administration. And he gets the new economy. He gets infrastructure. And to me, that's really exciting because we've got to get plugged in. Erie, PA, I remember being in your downtown. I mean, it looked a lot like Warren and Youngstown and Ravenna and these other towns that I represent. We've got to plug in these communities, increase quality of life, rebuild the downtowns, and plug these communities in. And I think Joe Biden gets that 1,000 times more than Donald Trump does.
Vice President Biden's running. His mantra is that he's running for the soul of America, and he doesn't always kind of articulate what that means. But when I hear the soul of America, I think about a lot of the themes that you talked about, not only in your bid for the Democratic nomination, but also going back throughout your career. These themes that pop up over and over and over again really do encompass what that means. I don't want to be too philosophical here with you, but like, what does that mean to you? What does the soul of America mean to you? as you're thinking of your experiences, the people you know, the people you've met along the way, and the direction that this country needs to go?
To me, and I got 13 years of Catholic school, so I'll go down the philosophical, rabbit hole with you. But to me, when you talk about the soul, you talk about spirituality, those kind of things. To me, that means connection. Connection and connection to a higher power, connection to each other, and that's where America was when we were at our best. That was always the essence of it. We were connected. You talk about the Depression, you talk about World War II, and then that ethic, spilled out into the largest middle class. Why? We had strong unions, which is the word itself. Union is about coming together. We knew that we would, my grandfather always used to say he was a steel worker for 40 years. And my great grandfather was a steel worker for 40 years at Youngstown Sheet and Tube. And they would always say, you vote for police levies, you vote for fire levies, you vote for school levies. That's how you build a good community. That was that ethic in action, right? Like, we support our police and fire, we support our educators. And then that led into the civil rights movement, and then Vietnam kind of, splintered everything. But that, to me, what's the soul of America is that deep level of ourselves in which we're connected to each other. And once we recognize that, it shifts everything. And so I think the coronavirus, in a lot of ways, is giving us an opportunity really to kind of reconnect with that. And we were talking about all the frontline workers. My wife's a first grade school teacher. She's getting texts from parents, and her colleagues are getting texts about, oh my God, you guys need to be paid more. All the parents that are homeschooling now, like you are, oh my God, you need to get paid more. I can't believe you do this with 30 kids. One lady was pretty funny. The end of her text said, this is actually your kid and you need to come get him. So, I don't know about you, but I'm never going to be able to walk through a grocery line again and check out and not look at the cashier with some level of respect for what they've done, and the truck drivers and everybody who's made all this happen. So that's the connection that maybe, Joe Biden is talking about it and but maybe the awareness level's a lot higher now as to that really needs to be the culture shift for the big change that will then be converted into policies like it was after the Depression and World War II.
Congressman, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to talk to us here in Erie, and always a pleasure. Stay safe and on your travels back and forth from Washington, and all the best in your reelection campaign.
Great to see you, man. Take care of yourself.
All right, thanks.